So welcome aboard the ship, everyone. I'm so grateful. We are at 12. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, yeah. We're a sacred 12. As we know, there may be some others that will stroll in and expand, but we're a beautiful diamond. We're a beautiful octahedron shape right now. It's so awesome, and it's going to go along with some things we're talking about. But before we begin, I want to do several times today where we tune in, and we're going to do some breathing, the ascended breath. If you've never done these breath techniques, you know, you have free will. You do what you want. You don't have to follow what I'm saying as far as like in and out. There is a slight hold at the top of the head because we're sending the breath up. And if you want to exhale, you don't want to hold your breath the whole time, just exhale. But we're looking today at retrieval of dormant energy and then making best use of that reclaimed energy towards that which we're projecting, as well as we're going to go even beyond that and realize how much potent energy is in the field for us. I do have, before we begin the breath, I do have the quantify tubes on right now. I'll probably turn them off after we do this breath work, and then we'll turn them on again. But so you can understand what's going on is that if it's comfortable and you can see those tubes, just so you can get a peek what the tubes are I'm talking about. I have 4 tubes pointing out, conditioning the room with plasma. So you don't have to keep staring at them. I just wanted you to have a reference of what I'm talking about. That these tubes, are pointing in all 4 directions, conditioning the space with plasma light, photonic light, that's available light for us to easily take in to the physical body, but more importantly to the multidimensionality that we are. So it will go into not only the 2 strands of DNA, but it helps open up all 12 strands of DNA and helps you access beyond what we're seeing here and bring light there. So it gives the ability to have more potential. Higher potentials actualize themselves or come forward because it's already manifested. It's just we're becoming acclimated and attuned to who we really are as these greater beings. We are doing a sacred relocation dance today, I notice, meaning there are some gnats in the building, and we honor them, but we acknowledge that they are at a lower realm, and we are also acknowledging that a lot of realms are open today. I could feel coming to the space today. So awesome. You know, we're really looking for dormant energy, and a lot of times that dormant energy is in our cubes that we're going to talk about, and it's in these spaces and places that are ready to be reclaimed. So take some deep breaths. Let's go ahead and come inside in your awareness. And just to begin, just notice your breath. Notice where your hands want to be. Do they want to be in a mudra of sorts? Do you want to place them palm over palm? Like really acknowledge what feels best. And once you've acknowledged your natural breathing and where your hands want to be, even if you're lying back slightly, just notice your spine. Try to elongate the spine. And let's go ahead and we're going to take a deep inhale all the way up. Imagine you're sweeping up from tailbone all the way up to the top of your head. Inhale through your nose. And then exhale out your mouth, sweeping down the spine. We're just going to do a couple of these before we get into the technique. So inhale up the spine. Exhale out your mouth, release down the spine. All the way out and then all the way in. Inhale nice and slow it down as you come in, and then exhale slowly, this time out your mouth. Good. On the next one, we're going to inhale through nose, Take a sip of air through your mouth and squeeze your root, your belly button, and your ribs up. And imagine you're bringing this energy to the top of your head. Hold your breath slightly. And then exhale, release it out. Good. 2 more. Inhale all the way up. Breathe on. Inhale, nose. Second breath in through the mouth. Squeeze your root, your belly button, your rib cage. Take the energy up to the top of the head. Hold. Eye gaze slightly up. Smile. And then exhale out. 1 more. We're going to do same thing. Inhale through nose. Sip through the mouth. Start squeezing, lowering, closing down the lower gates. 1, 2, 3. Belly button and rib cage up. Hold the breath up. Smile. And let a sound of ah as you do this last exhale out. Then take your hands to your thymus gland if that feels good to you, and center at the center point of this existence for this now moment, at that 4th doorway of the heart. Good. And imagine when we open our eyes that we're opening our eyes from this unconditional loving place. When it feels good to you, open our eyes. Good. And then just find where you want to be as we get into our talk. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the plasma because we've been conditioning the space probably for about a half hour now. And so it may feel like you're on air, like the sign says. It may feel like you are literally lifted up into a higher space because we have available to us this 4th state of plasma. So 4th state of matter. Yeah, 4th state of matter meaning solid, liquid, gas, and then plasma. And so when we're looking at plasma for, like I said, it's light, it's photonic light, but it's in this beyond gaseous state. And it's spread out like an electron cloud, meaning it's everywhere always, but yet we may not be tapping into it. So that's why we're going to talk about dormant energy. And plasma is the same makeup as your soul. Your soul that you be is photonic light plasma. So when we're in the presence of conditioned space with plasma, it makes us feel and remember who we really are. And we can remember, wow, this like elevated on air kind of 4th state. So all the states, the realms, the planes of existence, the chakras, the subtle bodies, thankfully they all match up to the same number system. At least for my research and meditation, meaning, the 4th energy center has a gateway to air, which has a gateway to plasma. And so it's like I'm literally able, and even like the 4th subtle body, that astral subtle body. So I'm able to kind of give reference to such seemingly complex topics. Our soul that we be is like an on air, like we like to be light and fluffy. The soul is like here on this experience to ground. However, it does enjoy being able to be malleable and lift and travel and move and, pack it in, pack it out, your tent. When you're like, okay, we're done here, let's pack it up and go somewhere else. However, below that, to the personality, the inner child, the body, it wants us to be very grounded. It's like, okay, like ground down, I don't want to move around. Like the inner child doesn't necessarily want to move around all the time. And so it may be like, a little bit unnerving when the child is like trying to grow roots, trying to stabilize into the ground. And there's a lot of movement happening. So for some of us though, it really feels really good to be in the air. So raise your hand. Does it feel, I'm going to ask 2 questions. Does it feel better for you in this now moment to be in the air? If you like to be air, just curious how many air. And does it feel better to some of you to be grounded on the earth? About half and half. So neat. right? As a collective, like as we look at the 12, more of like looking at the bigger being that's showing up here, we're arriving at a higher level of who we really are as a tribe. We're pretty balanced. So that's pretty cool. Okay. Any questions from what I just shared? It wasn't really what I was going to talk about first, but I don't want to like leave that topic. Questions, realizations, something that just made you go, uh-huh, yeah, right. No? Okay. So when we're looking at these energy centers and we're looking at the vibrational pattern of how these sacred vortexes of energy move, they have a geometric pattern connected to them. And if you've ever seen like a sonic plate where they put sand on the plate or crystals on the plate, sand crystals, and then they do the vibration, or even just putting on a speaker and then playing certain music, you see how the sand like moves and changes shape. We can see that certain bass sounds are going to make more cubal, more like square looking shapes. And so that's like a good example to show, and that would be something fun to do here for when we're on our research days. But when we're looking at what we call the platonic solids, which are have an alignment with each of the energy centers, we want to realize that from within came without. Like everything we see going on around here literally is a mirror of what goes on inside here. All the capabilities, everything, all the technology of this experience within the body truly is being mimicked. We mimic it outside of ourselves all the time. And what happens though is I'll shift from we to I may get lost or misunderstand that, well, I don't need to like fixate so much on the outer world to do these things. It came from within. I have all these potentials and powers within me. It's convenient and it's been fun on the journey to actually look at the outside world, and it's convenient to know that, okay, I've memorized certain things to be certain places. This is how this cell phone works. How it works. But you get a new cell phone and you're like, oh my God, how does this work? So sometimes we want to recall these energies that we've entangled outside of us and bring them back home, which is this topic that why I'm going into the platonic solids. So these shapes, these platonic shapes, sacred geometries, essentially when we're looking at like Metatron's cube, the scribe that sits to the right of God, this cube that sits on his chest is having within it all of these shapes, all these platonic solids nest one inside the other. So it's like we all have this, since it's like the all is the I, is the one, we all have within us, especially at this chest plate, this bounty of, plasma that births from your heart when you're in bliss, as well as these shapes can be wielded and create that which you're thinking about. They actually do. So this first root energy center, if we were looking at it like with an energetic eye, we would see the cube. So I wish I had the crystals here, but I don't. But you've got the cube crystal.
I'm smiling because I do at home, and I looked at it this morning.
And you're like, should I bring those?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. But yes, it was.
But the main side that you see is a square. And that's really important. This is one of the biggest assignment we're going to do today with this cube, this hexadron. Always if I'm saying it right. And it's got its strong base format to build earth, to build foundational so that you do feel grounded, so that you feel good and you don't feel like the carpet just got pulled out from underneath you. So it's necessary. All these shapes are necessary. And again, it's all coming from within and then out here. And so we can see tons of squares and rectangles in this building. Most buildings these days actually are built in cubes, But if you were, in a different incarnation way back, you might have found that the most was a sphere. It was very circular. You may have been out west or down south or somewhere in another part of the country or world, and you actually are in more rounded buildings. I've lived in yurts several times in my life, and it's a much different experience to be living in a circle than to be living in a cube. but you can see all the cubes around us, right? Like, just look, how many cubes? It's like there's lots of cubes. Phone is a big one. So from within comes without. So that means, like, when I'm creating reality, it's a natural tendency as the soul that I am, that's a reality creator, to work with squares, to work with cubes, to create grounding, firm foundation experience, to feel solid. So the most things that we look at are our houses that we've lived in. I mean, if you can, like, think, some people have lived in just a couple houses, but I don't know about y'all, but I've lived in a lot of houses. Like, almost moved every year of my life growing up. I mean, it was a dance, you know, like, here we go, we're packing it up. So there's a lot of places that you may have laid down, you know, opened up your stuff and then been asked to bring it back in, you know, bring it back in, fold it in, fold it out. However, sometimes energy gets left there. And today's assignment, one of our assignments, is we're just going to look to call back any dormant energy that we've left in these cubes. The other thing is that we must realize, because we create reality and we memorize these things in the subconscious mind. Remember, the mind is that 85%, if we're looking at, you know, some sort of research, of everything we're seeing in front of us is memorized in the subconscious mind, and it makes us feel comfortable to keep reproducing that. So as we study quantum mechanics, and we realize when we close our eyes, everything disappears and it turns to a wave. It goes to pure, potent space. And then we open our eyes, we reparticleize, and we stack up light particles to see that which we've memorized to be there. But as we learn to rememorize new material of what we expect to be somewhere, it will change. And that has a big, it's a big assignment for a lot of us, because we've become comfortable just to keep it memorized and keep it a certain way. However, as we're coming back into our mastery, our magi, our skill set as these ancient beings that we are, we may be excited to think that we can actually start to change things by rememorizing and putting new subconscious material in. So we want to look for places that we may have, like, left and quantum entangled our energy in cubes, squares, and rectangles. And we look at, you know, corporations especially use their sigils, their signs. They actually know about sacred geometry a lot of the time, or just a natural affinity. They pick a geometry because, like, oh, that's comfortable. There's symmetry to it. We naturally, as beings, we like sacred geometry because we feel organized. We can come in and, like, move like a stealth being. You know, the last place we have, the geodesic dome by Buckminster Fuller's niece in Crystal Beach. When I would look in the mirror there, I looked like, you know, 20 years old. Like, everything tightens up. Your whole, you know, aura shifts and changes when you're in sacred geometry of different kinds. Like, it's, you know, if you go lay on the plasma bed, take a picture of yourself before and after, and you know, the collagen should, you know, literally come in and you look crisper. But when I was getting to the sigils of corporations, when they pick their signs and their symbols, they naturally pick things that are going to organize. It's rare that someone's going to pick, you know, a gobbledygoo, like, symbol, you know, unless they're like, we clean up gobbledygoo. I don't know. So a lot of times people are, you know, corporations are picking their signs specifically so that they are easily for you to memorize and quantum entangle with. You know, it's going to be easy for you to memorize that if it's got a sacred geometry to it. The second one is the icosahedron. It's 20 sides. I like to point out the downward pointing triangle, because for me, the downward pointing triangle really represents that sacral, that second energy center. And so we can, you know, maybe not as many rectangles or triangles in here, but do you see any? Oh, I see a pyramid.
Triangles, you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
And the A, letter A, right? There's not as many. We've definitely got dominant cube going on. Okay. So this sacred geometry is not so much seen everywhere, but you may start to notice it now that we're pointing it out. You see it?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of triangles in the middle.
Oh.
like the directions.
Underneath.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Play forward.
Uh-huh.
There's 4 of them.
Well, the antennas over there are.
Oh yeah, they got moved.
Yeah, I saw that too. Like I can make the
Yeah.
shapes.
Yeah.
They may not be
The chain
shape.
on the on-air sign.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Oh,
The
Now they're coming out. They're like,
it's
wait.
sort of similar, but it's on the speaker itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there we go. We got
Two of them
Rockville.
actually.
Your
Right.
hinge on your stand here for your phone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. But yeah, we can see that sigil. Rockville is using the triangle, the shield. So this water element, and we've also, we're looking at like the seed of life. All these orbs together, and how naturally, just like these shapes are coming in and out of each other. It's fun. Maybe one class, we draw out the Metronon's cube, and you can actually start to color the different platonic solids and see how they literally pop out. But this is naturally what's happening. Is we're always kind of cycling through these shapes within ourselves as we're creating and lighting up the show in front of us. Okay, so we move from water, icosahedron, and we go to fire, tetrahedron. And this is more like the pyramid. And I just highlighted this upward pointing triangle. And so we
Nice
make,
oscillator.
yep, icosahedron and then tetrahedron. What did you just say?
I said isosceles because it's that particular one right there looks more like an isosceles triangle, which is interesting.
What number?
Oh, number 3.
Number
Oh,
three,
number 3.
which is funny because 2 is
Isosceles is
Yeah.
2 long ends and a short end.
Got it. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we go to air. 4 was the octahedron. And so it's like 2 superimposed tetrahedrons on top of each other. And then we go to 5 ether dodecahedron. And so we're also just, again, looking at these, how they are equating to our energy center, just seeing how the things start to shift and move as we're vibrationally moving up our central channel. And number 6, a lot of times you may see it depicted as the star, or even the Star of David, or the Merkaba, where the 2 tetrahedrons kind of overlap each other halfway and create. It's not necessarily the star that I was thinking to show you.
Actually, I have it on here.
Like that,
Mm.
right?
Yeah,
Earth
the
meets
triangle and
ether.
triangle and triangle. Like the
There we
square.
go.
Earth meets ether.
Yes. And different studies and different schools may have these little bit mixed and flipped. I was noticing when I was looking through slides today. And then you've got the 7, which is the void, the sphere. And so this is just something fun today, if when you're leaving here, to like look around, like how many of these shapes you see, and especially like look at signs and see if you can see some of these geometries and signs. So why is this so important? Like I said, because if you are not necessarily super consciously projecting your reality a lot of times, which we're not. We drove here. Some of us don't even remember driving here today. I barely do. You just kind of get in, you're on autopilot, and the subconscious is naturally taking you through the motions that have been memorized, like driving a car. However, if you start to be more super conscious, realizing that you could start working with these shapes, as well as call yourself back from any shapes that you've just, why do you need to keep your energy there, quantum entangled there? And like I said, for today's assignment, I'm going to call it out in a minute. I want you to really look for any cubes. And I could also put a tetrahedron on there, because if you think of most of the roofs, your hip roof typically has got that triangular pyramidal shape. Think about how much energy you may have literally been moving your Taurus, the soul that you are, and you need to kind of like sweep yourself out. A lot of times, I'll kind of do this. You'll see me walk through a building, and as I'm leaving the door, I'm like pulling my energy out, because sometimes I can really feel it. Like, what just happened? I don't feel like I've left that building, and I may even still smell it. That I have a very strong non-location smeller. Like, I can tell where I'm at because I can smell where I'm at, somewhere else that I just kind of left my energy quantum entangled. So, checking ceiling and basements, right? We don't necessarily need to be like grounded in your basement childhood home unless you want to.
I have a question about the quantum entanglement because I've heard you use it as something you kind of want to pull out and don't want to do, but then I've also heard it be used, like I've heard Susie say it, and like sometimes like something we do want to be quantum entangled with. So
Yeah. So it's good, like I just said, yeah, so sometimes you want to be. Sometimes it's, what's beautiful is following instructions from higher self, or, you know, from who you are, your super intelligence. Like, is it for the highest and best to be quantum entangled with everything you are right now? I mean, it got you here. You know, you are who you are in this now moment, quantum entangled with everything that is. Truth. Whereas sometimes you may be looking to shift your reality, shift your identity, we're going to talk about, shift that which you're wanting to materialize or have come from these other fields and literally pull forward. But yet you're so anchored into some, you know, let's say house, you're so quantum entangled with some neighborhood that you're not even living at anymore. And it's keeping you from actually moving forward with that which you're calling in to be made manifest. So it's just really finding where and what wants to be called back from. Because you're super conscious and you have the ability. You are like literally the star, sun, supernova, galactic center, depending on where you're at, that's birthing all the existence in front of you, you know? So when we forgot that, and we then thought the reality was more real than who I am, when I wasn't coming from within to without, I was going, well, everything I hear is true. All these outer circumstances are, you know, it's it. Like, it's all I got to work with. And then I fixate and keep things so solid outside of me, thinking, well, that's the real. That I'm missing out on possibly, well, maybe I should shift, pull all my energy from everywhere I thought was like, had to be certain ways, and bring it back in, and then expand back out like on an exhale to re-quantum entangle with that which is the highest and best timeline. Or
okay.
Yeah.
I think I understand like the unentangling, but maybe it's something about that word tangling. I almost have kind of like a negative connotation. So I guess what would an example of wanting to quantum entangle with, like, could you give an example?
Yeah, like, so even thinking about your visions that you're having, like, let's say you close your two eyes and you see this next space, you know, you're going on a retreat somewhere, or you're purchasing a new home. Behind your two eyes, you can see, you can feel that space. So you literally are quantum entangling with it, right?
Okay.
And then it's coming forward.
Mm-hmm.
Even
so with a space, but what about like with people or something?
Same thing. What if you're, you know, you could look at one being, we talked about this earlier, you could look at one being and you've been so quantum entangled with their lower self, their actions that are no longer in alignment with who you are. It was you, because you guys wouldn't be together. You wouldn't have made manifest. However, the version of them you're ready to like be with is this version when you close your eyes and you see their eternal soul, and you see all these amazing qualities that this being came here to arrive as. It's like I may want to pull myself from the lower version that I've been quantum entangled with, whether I think that, you know, it's coming from out to in, or I may realize like I've been addicted and memorized this version of this being to be a certain way, and I am no longer, I'm going to pull my energy back from everywhere I've like keep memorizing them to be that lower version, pull my energy back, and then on an exhale, expand back to quantum entangle with their highest version self.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you say that there's like a close connection point with like anchors with that piece? Because like yesterday when we were going over the book, we were talking about like the different, you know, grounding your anchor in different states. But that could also work in regards to quantum entangling too, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So anchors are big. So there's been times where Catriel and I actually, maybe it was like 2019 or something, we were working on re-anchoring to a higher plane of existence. And we used the analogy of a hot air balloon, and how when you're taking your hot air balloon up, you have to like release the sandbags down, like you let sandbags go so that you can rise up. So sometimes we have to release anchors, literally, so that we can rise up and live from a new place. So today, when I was driving here, I said, Spirit, what are we doing today? And maybe I was talking to God consciousness, but essentially, Holy Spirit, what are we doing today? Like, where are we at? And it was, you all are going to be really working with the 4th and 7th realm, but you're going to be leaving a very old version space that you're done with. And I was like, oh yeah, we're talking about this, reclaiming dormant energy from old structures of cubes. So we're coming into these higher places, but if I'm so dense in the sense of I've got so many anchors at like, gosh, I've probably lived at least 50 houses, like I've done this exercise a lot, but still you may literally just think about the house or talk about the house and all of a sudden, you're back entangled. It's all good. There's no like harm about this. It's just we're learning about our mechanics, who we are and what we're capable of. So if I pull my anchors from 50 houses, what's that going to do? It's like letting 50 sandbags go. I can like, I may literally feel like I can breathe. I may all of a sudden no longer smell the smell. I may all of a sudden, what I've noticed is the more space I have, the more clarity I have of mind, right? I meditate, I've got a clear mind. The more anchors I've lifted, I can manifest like that. I can say your name and you'll call me, you'll text me, you'll butt call me, you'll literally show up in front here. And I'm like, because it's that fast. But if I got all these anchors out and I've got a clouded mind, I don't meditate, I'm impulsive, I'm reactive, and I'm just like, I'm pretty dense. I've got tons of anchors holding me in a lower frequency that are keeping me from, like I said, materializing things pretty fast. And I said, well, I keep asking for it, but you're so in these lower 3 door holes, 1, 2, and 3, you're exiting out these lower places, which is great. Like I said, you want to be grounded, but you want to be equally distributed throughout your central channel. And you want to know like where you are and what you're creating and where you are. So finding these unconscious places that you've left yourself behind that you're no longer needing to be gives you more freedom. It gives you more movability, gives you more presence, so that when you do think something or say something, it's like it comes.
Can I say, also part of that is, let's say your home, for an example. I've been seeing with sessions with clients that I'm guided to see if they have cords to their home, or maybe another word would be other people that are entangled with their home from the past and stuff, and have those cleared. So so you could ask like your guides or whoever you're, to clear other people's entanglements, cords to your space.
In both directions.
Both directions.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought all that up. So let's anchors first. So literally you may, this can get a little, like I was telling Cammie, like, spiritual electrician, it can get a little complex sometimes, but if you got time on your hands, you're eternal. You may want to like, just like play with this in your mind. Like, okay, am I anchored at plane 1 unnecessarily? You can use the words like planes, like literally whole planes of existences. You can use the word of realms when you're going up your central channel. It's like almost, each realm is giving you more power, more access to planes. You can think of the elements when you're thinking of realms. First realm, earth. Second realm, you're mastering your water skills, water bending. So remember we haven't done that lately. Let's do bending again. Bending skills, air bending, fire bending. Each realm you get more ability with the bending skill of that element. It wants to work with you. So as you're rising up, you may want to ask super intelligence, do I have any unnecessary anchors in planes? No. Realms, yes. Like play with that. Yes, no. And do I have any unnecessary anchors, like we're going to look at today? Houses, yes. And you're just going to be pulling that back. We also used the verbiage a second ago. You're quantum entangled to some structure there. Like you're quantum entangled to some kind of shape. And when you do these exercises, it's going to give you more of the light back. So that when you do think something, it gives you more power to have it occur right now. Then let's go to what Sibel just brought up. Tethers, cords, tethers, and bindings. So sometimes you're, quantum entangled, aka corded up with somebody, and it's just like not benefiting you anymore. You can get really complex with this. We're not doing it today, but you can look like, where, is it in my back of my third energy center? Is it coming out my front? Is it from me to them or them to me? You can learn a lot about how these energies are directional and why they're there. The thing about cords, tethers, and bindings, cords are usually pretty temporary. Tethers have it's like growing rope, like they become thicker. Tethers they've been there a long time. They're thicker. And then the binding, sometimes you're bound because it's your family, you can try to get rid of that, but it's just part of your sacred geometry of how you actually wove yourself through this experience to be here and how you'll unweave out, right? You don't necessarily want to untangle from that in the sense that, the song lines, the ancestor lines are part of your power. Like we can make best use and give grace and gratitude to everyone from behind me and everyone in front of me. So, yeah.
Are we going to include all that you're talking about in a meditation at the end? Or?
We will.
We got to put this into action.
Absolutely. We will. But let me get to one more thing. We'll do a midway exercise because I want to do 2 topics today. When you're finding those, what I want to say is when you're finding any of this, it's not personal, we're not here to make this bad or wrong. I just want you to know mechanics that may benefit you or your clients or your friends or family. And on the journey home, as we walk each other home, you may find that question of well, do I need to forgive somebody about this? Is there something I need to forgive? Or in both directions? Am I looking for forgiveness? Why am I still quantum entangled, anchor, tethered? What's going on? That understanding can really help you not recoil and go all the way, you do the whole technique, but all of a sudden you find yourself even more connected because it's not done. You actually have information to understand. The more you understand, the easier it is for you to be complete with these energies and have them lift and sift and move along. And then you get to quantum entangle with the higher version of them because you no longer need them to be a certain way, or you're done, you're done thinking location. Well, I need to stay, my childhood home and I need to be connected forever. If you get the download of well, why do you feel that? What's your inner child wanting to talk about? Then, of course, once you do these exercises, of course, you're going to spread back out and be one with all. It's just seemingly unhealthy ways that you're entangled that are keeping you from the totality of you literally walking as pure space, as your higher intelligence, God consciousness, the Holy Spirit. Does that make sense? So let's do this exercise. Okay. It won't be long. If you like to keep your eyes open, you can, but if you want to close your eyes, I'm just going to call out a few things that you can call back your energy or not. So if you want to start with your hands on your thymus gland just to get centered, take a couple deep breaths in. And imagine the higher self that you be, this beautiful ball of light, this huge, really, it's amazing orb of light, almost like the sun. Imagine this higher self light that you truly are, this big cloud of light, photonic light. If it seems like it's up high, just imagine you're bringing it down so that it's enveloping, holding your body, the soul packet, the aura. And imagine that the crystalline blueprint of existence is beneath you, and that this higher self light, photonic light, is making its way to ground into this blueprint of existence. This loving space that you be, this huge space. We're asking that your super intelligence, or if you want to talk to higher self, be your guide. I want you to ask your higher self if there's any unnecessary anchors that you have at old houses. It's a yes or no question. If you get yes, you may want to ask how many. If you get a number, awesome. If you did get a number and you want to call your energy back, you may want to go number through the numbers to call your energy back. You can also just ask if you can do a mass pullback, calling all your energy back to this now moment. Disentangling, unwind. Anything that does need to stay there or be left there is done so for the highest and best good. Good. The next question is higher self or super intelligence. Are there any, am I quantum entangled with any cubes in the existence that is not for my benefit? If so, you got a yes. Just call yourself back, disentangle, unwind. And any of those cubes that are your benefit, you just stay entangled. Stay connected. Good. And higher self, are there any unnecessary cords to someone in my life that I'm being asked in this moment to identify? Let the being either be told to you, shown to you. It may be a group of people. And ask if there's any greater understanding of why this person or group of people are being brought to your awareness. And with that greater understanding, if there's any compassion or forgiveness, work with any colored light. If your hands need to shift or sweep or do any kind of movements, trust the way your hands want to move. And let your exhale assist with any release, any let go, and any reclaiming of your essence to come back home. As well as you may have any energy or essence that wants to return to them. And then check to see if there's any cords or any energies that want to go back to them that are seemingly like etheric strings. And then give them thanks. Give them such gratitude. Good. And then let them go back to where they need to be. And then come back deep and focus on your breath. I want you to really start to accentuate as we stabilize and reorganize after these 3 adjustments. So asking your higher self intelligence to work with your blueprint of existence, bringing you back to a new harmony, a new stability, and a new grounding. And when it feels right to you, smiling to lift the photonic light to a higher level. Good. And when it feels right to you, opening your eyes from your heart and placing your hands wherever it feels comfortable. Good. Thank you. And as these adjustments happen, you may notice that you literally feel like you're ready to go to a higher plane of existence, meaning the whole plane rises in frequency. So if I wake up in an interesting dream or something, I'll check, do I need to go up a plane? And they're like, yeah, go to plane 12. And so I'll lay in my bed and I push up and lift the whole plane of existence to 12. And I may envision like a quick snapshot, like an eagle of the whole day, and see that everybody there is with me, all the eternal souls that are ready to like play at this level of consciousness, of source consciousness, to be there. And it's really beautiful. And the days that I forget to do that after an interesting dream like that, I don't do the prep work, which is rare. But in the research that I've done on myself, it's an interesting day. You know, it's like, okay, we're down low. Okay. All right, so this I just wanted to briefly go over. I've talked about it before, but the reason the ascended breath that we started today with was squeezing your root, squeezing your belly button, and then your rib cage is so important, is because you're closing these lower gates. It doesn't mean that you're not grounded through your entire feet and your root. It just means you're stabilizing them to a star point. Because it's better, at least in my perception of this experience that I'm researching myself, my existence, to have stable base. So you might, do Kegel exercises, squeezing your bum, your root, the vaginal muscles, whatever muscles down there, lift and hold. Someone come in. Could somebody check? You might even walk around and notice that sometimes you get somewhere and you're noticing your hands go into a hand mudra, like and maybe even your feet go crossed. It's because you're stabilizing the base so that your energy is not flowing too much in that other person's field sometimes. Sometimes because it may feel a little like you're in a different realm that you're not used to. And so it's stabilizing that so that you don't necessarily get too entrenched in a field that maybe you're not ready to play in. And the second gateway, also stabilizing that so you're not too emotional. And the third gateway, so there's not a lot of power struggles going on. The typical energy center keywords is what that's going to help you with. But the reason we do it in the ascended breath is because so much of this existence, at least for myself, was making choices based off fear and survival. And so if I've made majority of my choices, which I haven't anymore, and I do my best not to, but if I look back and I look at all those choices that were made, most choices for this lower world indoctrination and such, and the way the world runs itself, people typically are making choices based off fear and survival. And so if you make a choice from that place, you're really firing off these sex organs, the kidneys and the adrenals. They just get like major impulse, major release of, cortisol comes out of the adrenals. And there's just this firing of these emotional energies, this chemical cocktail. And there's a lot of energy down there that gets used, but also like your essence gets so quantum entangled on the inner. And it's like you're not actually getting to live from the Most High, where you project and think something and it happens like that. Or you think and feel it and it happens like that, because you're actually getting this energy up the spine. So by squeezing, of doing that every rising, I found Breathing with Sandy, if you haven't found him yet, it's really good, right? So good. On YouTube, Breathing with Sandy. Doing this breath work, and it's really powerful. It's very simple. But by squeezing those lower three centers and rising the energy up, slightly holding your breath, it's like you're squeezing out a sponge. And all of that energy that may be dormant gets to come up and actually be used at the thymus, at the thyroid, pituitary pineal, and the thalamus. And we want that, we want to actually get all that energy up. Make sense? So just kind of do like a sweep up and smile and see that energy, just any dormant energy that wants to be like rainbowed into your heart, your throat, your head. Ooh, yes. Okay. Yeah. It's the sacred blessing, like you're washing these sacred organs. Yeah. The endocrine system is the physical manifestation of all of these platonic solid energy shapes, all the energy centers. Okay. So my last topic for today, or second topic today, is about getting beyond the body, the environment, and time. And so our body, like I said, most of the body, the fascia especially, is like a representation of your subconscious mind. So all this connective tissues is your fascia, and a lot of emotions and unprocessed emotions and memories are sometimes stuck in there. You might get myofascial release, and cranial sacral. You might just be doing a stretch and feel like, gosh, I'm really moving some energy, like something just lifted. But we want to notice that the body is holding all of this. And when we have, like I said earlier with the ascended breath, when we have a thought, it triggers a feeling, right? The thought, and then we analyze the feeling, and then a cocktail gets spurted out of these endocrine glands of chemicals. And so if we're not constantly in this firing of a thought, a feeling, and like energy cocktail or a chemical cocktail coming out into the body, this is creating, again, like a big subconscious memorization of those thoughts. So sometimes you wonder why you can't get rid of this thought. Like it just comes out of nowhere and you're like, I don't even like that thought. Why does it keep coming? It could be because, again, it's held in the fascia. It's held within these organs and the endocrine system especially. But it's also something you want to call out and clear, right? Like this biocomputer, this body is waiting for commands. It's waiting for you to realize that you actually are the thinker, and that you can actually think a new thought, and you can command for the old one to be deleted, to control, alt, delete. And possibly find out, where in my body is this coming from? Where is it stored? What memory had it stored there? What memory is so deep in there that I don't even remember the memory, right? It's like totally in my deep unconscious, but yet it's holding on for dear life, and it's keeping that alive. And beyond even the body, but that which you came from, that spiraling in of the Akashic record, of other timelines, where you ask, your super intelligence, like, where is this really from? The Inquisition. Okay, so everywhere any of us have, unconscious anchors and thoughts and inquisitions, would you be willing to call yourself back and dissolve, dismantle, entangle, and wind, release? Yes. Anything else about that? No. But so you may ask, where else beyond this incarnation?
Did you mean like a history thing? Inquisition?
I don't know. I just heard loudly. Inquisitions.
Anything historical always goes right over my head.
So the thought, evokes a feeling. And then the feeling evokes usually another thought. So it's this loop. And if you're unconsciously just really you want to get control of your thoughts. Your thought is the strongest weapon on the planet. I mean, your thought creates the entire reality. So get a hold of that thing. Put good thoughts in there so that you're rememorizing new thoughts. And that becomes your new subconscious mind. Like I said, you're here a long time. Just saying, something you can do. So that then you're having these new thoughts which evoke new feelings. Feelings that you want, feelings that are, feel good. So that's going to require new thoughts. And when you're doing that, you're actually going to be able to get beyond your old body and essentially your old identity. The identity that actually was acquainted or resonant with those thoughts. Sometimes we're holding identity that truly is not even who we are. It's like the memorized identity that everybody wanted us to be. That's a really good one to ask. Am I literally the persona I'm showing up as, is it truly who I am? No. Ask that. Is the persona that you're showing up as right now truly who you are? No? Who got a yes? 1, 2, 3.
But I asked
Okay.
myself that question this morning.
Oh, you
it's
did?
Interesting. And then I saw something, and then we just worked through it and cleared it.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Right? Like, who am I really? Beyond the persona, I am that I am. So you can then allow yourself to expand into this bigger presence that you are. Because truly the personality in the body is 0.0001 of who you really, of the light show that you actually are. The light show that you actually are is the big plasma cloud. It's a big electronic cloud. It's like God in existence. That's who I am. Right?
Yeah.
So if I've been like, oh, I'm this. No. So we want to get beyond the body to new identity, and that brings us to the environment. We want to realize that, like I spoke about earlier, the environment is like, again, the same percentage. It's 0.001. Everything beyond it is truly, the real. So if we stay fixated on what we're seeing right in front of us as the only thing that there is, we're missing out. For me, I'm like so much more in my imagination throughout the day, as much as I possibly can. I'm thinking of really pretty fun things, like illuminating my body, illuminating all y'all's bodies. When I get up, I imagine like a big column of light here, and like it's a light show, Cammie.
Love it.
Oh,
It's
I
awesome.
thought you were going to say something.
No, what you manifest is what you create. So
Yeah.
if you draw that energy,
Yeah.
it will make it build.
Yes. So when we're focused more on the space, if this is like, we'll look at this subatomic particles, what I was looking at. You got a nucleus, and what the old way of science would be showing, like, electrons going around it.
Mm-hmm.
But yet what's really going on in quantum mechanics, what they show is that there's electrons everywhere, and they're non-local. They're only localized when an observer sees them. They're actually infinite probability of electrons. And then we put in like a plasma generator in here that literally, I hope if you got the email I sent out, watch the video about the science of them, a really good scientist studying the Therapy and with some devices that actually showed the numbers of, like, there's real numbers and imaginary numbers in quantum mechanics. Just sitting a half an hour on the Therapy, the bigger tubes of what I talked about earlier, through the imaginary numbers off the chart, and the real numbers went inversely to it. And so what that means is it opens up so much quantum potential, so much other realms of existence, and turns on all your multidimensional DNA so that you have like full access. So I'm kind of jumped topics, but coming back.
In other words, Therapy is awesome.
It's so
Give it a try.
good.
Give it
So
a try.
make sure you use it when you're here.
And when you're on it, only think positive stuff.
Yes. Only think positive things. You don't want to get down a rabbit hole, open up cosmic door, and, delete. As well as you don't want to infinitely project that what you just thought about. Right. You want to infinitely project the most amazing things.
Yes.
I was thinking about taking stacks of the money and putting them on the Therapy with you.
Absolutely.
At the end of the money class?
Yes. And this rising, I put the water that you're having, the tea has been plasmid, so there's a lot of light in the tea today. Both water vials, I sat in the plasma for a half hour, so it's got a lot of light. Okay, so you want you want to get beyond the local and the gross matter environment by playing at least a couple times in your day, right when you get up, focusing on the unseen environment. Like, get big. This is why our witness stance, meaning, you know, you're in an interesting situation, something weird's going on in front of you. You projected it somewhere memorized in your past, showing up in the seemingly now. And you might just go like this. You see those trees? See that bird? You may just hold the witness and have nothing to say because you're not going to entangle with it. You're in this. You're holding infinite potential. You may even close your eyes for a minute and see them, you know, if they're telling you no, 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 and all of a sudden you close your eyes, you open your eyes like, yes. The electrons shift positions and they are the new them. So this is fun. Especially when you got a tribe doing this stuff together. It's so cool. Okay. And then time. You want to get beyond time into the now. You stretch time. You play with time so much when you learn to be present and you're in the now. Meaning if you're constantly thinking about the past and you're anticipating the future with anxious energy, I should say, and all day, then, you know, you're missing out on the eternal now. And this now line opens you up to this infinite potential. And this is why I'll add in just a side note before I do our last exercise, like you being in service, being selfless in the sense, giving it all up to the Most High that you be, and you living from that now place of like massive love, massive authenticity, and presence, everything of your wildest dreams will come in. It's the tall orders have all been received, and it will start spiraling in quicker as you can maintain this position most of the day. Right? So this is why meditation is so powerful, because we need to stretch time and get into the gap. And when we meditate and do breath work, I like to start with breath work, and then all of a sudden I'm out. You know, like I'm like, no mind, no place, no body. And then my dog barks. But when you get into that gap, you're going to have, again, this full access here. And, you know, you may do some prep work of like with your breath work, you know, visualizing things that are you're looking to quantum entangle with and bring forward. But the more you're in the presence and you're doing your mission, your super skill, your super gift, you're being present in the moment, all of it comes in. And that's the beauty of why we're here right now. We're here to all be in this presence, to be the presence practitioners, and arrive to the location we find ourselves at. Like we found ourselves right here. Good. So let's complete today with a practice. And this practice is, again, I want to do the breath again now that we're even more reminding ourselves why it's so powerful to squeeze and bring up all that energy. And then I just want us to access the gap together, just to be together with more of that energy lifted to the top energy centers. So get comfortable. I would say, you know, have your spine erect, unless it feels good for you to be slightly reclined. I trust, you know your body the best.